Hey guys, and welcome back to Dustin's Shed. Just going to have a look at my FJ40 Landcruiser today, and it's got a clutch slave cylinder that's no good, and it's got a few other things that are no good, but we'll see them. But we'll have a bit of a look at it first, and then put it up on the hoist and see what we can see. So this is the FJ40 Cruiser, and there's Helpful Dog as ever. It's a 3.9 petrol 6-cylinder, 4-speed manual, 4-wheel drive obviously. Body on frame, so the frame in this is in really good nick. The body on the other hand, not really so much, but that's all right, we can fix that up. There's a bit of a quick walk around of it. The roof's been replaced with a fiberglass one at some point, and the front guards are fiberglass now as well. The rear doors have been changed. This would have originally had a pop-up rear hatch and 2 little rear doors at the bottom, but it's been changed to the barn style doors. Like those ones there, and we'll have a look under the bonnet and see the powerhouse that is under there. So this is the big bad 6-cylinder petrol. This was copied off a Chevy Blue Flame engine, I think, off the top of my head. It's a 3.9 push rod, just straight 6, nothing fancy. The carburetor on it's been taken off and replaced with a Holden one, which is quite common on this sort of stuff because it used to have LPG on it, like almost every one of these did back here in New Zealand. But at the moment we're just concentrating on the clutch fluid that leaks out the bottom and making the clutch work properly. The engine, we are thinking I'll probably take it out, well I will take it out, but whether it gets reconditioned or whether it gets swapped out for something else temporarily, and we'll just put this one in the corner. I've got a 5-speed out of a 60 series cruiser for it, but we're looking perhaps at putting a 1FZ FE, which is the 4.5 litre out of a 100 series, and putting a small turbo on the side of that just to give it a little bit of get up and go. Not too much, because it's not really a great handling machine either, but just a little bit more than this motor's got. So we'll pop it up on the hoist and have a look underneath. So this is the underneath of a 40 series, and the simplicity of it is probably why they go and go forever, because yeah, there's just really nothing under here. It's some drum brakes, a rear diff, and that's pretty much it for the back. It's just a big empty hole. And we've got a bit of a problem here. The oil appears to be leaking out of the transfer case, which isn't really that great, but I had been made aware of that before. So we'll probably have a look at that. There's oil leaking out of the engine, but we're not really too worried about that. And same with the front end. It's got a solid front axle with just swivel hubs on the end of it. Probably use a bit of attention, but all the same, they still work. Engine and a gearbox, and that's really pretty much it. And old Mr. Toyota being Mr. Toyota, that's our clutch slave cylinder that we're going to replace. And it's ridiculously easy to get at, so thanks for that, Mr. Toyota. So I'll just change that out, and we'll bleed her up, get it going again. So I've just loosened all the bolts off, but you can see there where clutch fluid's been leaking onto the engine mount, and then where it's been running down the chassis here and eating the paint. So not a good thing to leave leaking like that, ideally. So we'll just pull that bleed nipple out and then crack the hose off before we take the slave cylinder off. Okay, so we've got that off. It should just come out, hopefully. Out of there, which one comes out? That should be loose, so we'll just unscrew that off and see what we got. Unfortunately I don't have a tripod or anything, so the camera's just kind of wedged in between the body of the cruiser and the arm of the hoist to try and hold it in place, so hopefully you can see what we're up to. So now you can see the old one at the top and the 2 new ones at the bottom. One's post 74 and one's pre-74. And to look at them, they all look exactly the same. The holes are the same size, they're the same distance apart. So the difference is inside. So we're just going to pop the rubber covers off and have a bit of a look and probably see how bad the original one is. I'll bang that apart. So it turns out that won't actually be coming apart anytime soon without having a bit of a clean up anyway, because I just had the air compressor in there and it would not move that piston any further than it is now. So we won't be doing much with pulling that any further apart because I can't really be bothered. But we pop it back over here. Try and get some light on the subject. We measure the bore. It's not going to focus on that, but it's oh, there we go, 19 millimeters, so 3/4 of an inch. Get our first new one. That one is also 19 millimeters. This one here looks bigger. Tell I'm not an engineer by my measuring skills. That one there is 20 point something, which is something in inches. I have no idea, but it's definitely bigger. So we'll put that one back in the box and send that one back and put the correct one back on. Right, so we've cleaned the fitting up, popped another copper washer on there. Just screw this on the end. Now hopefully we should just be able to pop it back into place. So I said hopefully we'll just be able to pop it back into place, and of course that's not going to work because once it's twisted around to where it wants to sit, you can see it's pulling on the hose and pulling it out of shape because it's not quite in the same place as it was originally because of different thread start or something like that. So we're going to let it down and loosen the top of the hose off and see if we can spin it around a bit. So you can see this is the top of our clutch hose. Just want to loosen it off, which I've already cracked the pipe off a bit because, well, I don't have enough hands to hold the can. Drop the spanner and do other things. So we'll get that loosened off and spin it around until it matches up at the bottom and tighten it back up again. This is our clutch slave cylinder push rod. I've just given it a clean up, just cracked that lock nut off and moved it up and down a couple of turns just to make sure I could. Pop a little bit of grease on the end and on the other end as well. So we'll pop that back in, pop the slave cylinder on, and then hopefully we should just about be able to bleed it up. So we've got it all back on now, got the bolts done up, the pipe done up, the springs on, we've left the bleed nipple loose, and we'll go and fix the top and then should be able to bleed it. So we've got that pipe back in now and you can see that it runs a nice straight line with no kinks or twists or anything in it down to the slave cylinder. That's what it should look like. If it's got a big kink or anything in it, that's when you need to do what we did here and just loosen the top off, spin it around till it looks nice and then tighten it back up again. Problem solved. Go and fill it up with brake fluid now and see well, if we can get a clutch pedal. So this is our clutch master cylinder here, which is obviously empty, which makes sense being we just pulled the hose off. But we may have found another small problem while we're here, because there's the brake master cylinder reservoir, or one of them, and it's also empty. The front one is full, but the rear one has no fluid in it, so we might have to take a look at that as well. But anyway, we'll put some brake fluid in here, or clutch fluid, or whatever you want to call it, and see that we can get a pedal. So because there's only me here and I don't have anyone to help me bleed this thing, what we're doing is just gravity bleeding. Just fill it up from the top, leave the bleed nipple open, and it just comes out the bottom. So it's when you've got a nice smooth stream like that, we'll just close it off. Then we'll jump in and see if we've got a pedal. So there we go, we've got a beautiful pedal. So we've got a little bit of free play there, and then nice push all the way to the floor. So I've gone and tightened everything up underneath and topped the fluid up, and that's all good. And I'll rip the rear brakes off now and see where the brake fluid's going there. So my camera battery just went flat, so we've just given this a rinse down with water because that'll neutralise any of the brake fluid that's lying around, and we can give that a blow off with the air shortly, and that way after I go for a drive I can check it for leaks and make sure it's all good. And I've pulled the rear brakes off. Well, the rear drum's off, and actually it looks like someone's been in here before, not too long ago. You pull the boot back and there's nothing in there. Pull the other end back and there's nothing leaking out of there. There's no signs of brake fluid anywhere in here or the other side. So the question is, where's it gone? So we'll put it up, have a look, and then have a look at the master cylinder and see maybe if that's leaking. So all we're going to do here is just have a look, follow the line all the way back from the back to the front. So obviously it's just nice and dry on that side, and then it's got a steel pipe that runs across the back of the diff and to a T here where it goes across to that side, all still nice and dry, and all still nice and dry there, and the T's nice and dry, hose is good, brake line's good as far as I can see along there. Get my torch out of the road. And we pick it up again here, and it's still good, and it goes up into there, and you can't really see that on the camera, but it's all in one piece. So I would have to say it's probably leaking at the master cylinder somewhere. So we'll have a bit of a look up there. So there's a wee bit of evidence there that it has been leaking out of there in the past. And the rust going down here kind of points towards it leaking out of the end of the master cylinder, and there may even be a bit of brake fluid on there. It's not really wet. It could be that it's leaking into the booster though, and slowly filling that up with brake fluid. Just don't know until you pull it off, and I don't really want to do that right now because everyone's closed, so I can't get parts for it anyway. So we'll just top it up for now and get it mobile, because it's only going to get driven around the section, and worry about it after lockdown's over. So we've got that pretty much all about as good as it's going to get for now. We'll sort the brakes out at a later date. We'll just get it off the hoist and go for a drive around the paddock and make sure the clutch works alright. Go from there. Okay, so I drove the Landcruiser last night and couldn't get any film because it was too dark outside. But the clutch pedal was coming up way too high. It was only needed to touch it a little bit and it'd start to slip. So we've gone and had a look underneath, and the adjustable push rod had been adjusted out too far and was preloading the clutch. So I'll just adjusted that. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about, and we'll go for another drive. So you can see that push rod up there, that's the adjustable one that we freed up yesterday, and there's a spring here holding the clutch fork back. If we take that spring off, there should be a small amount of free plate there, and we didn't have that before. On a clutch without a spring, return spring, you should be able to push it right back and then get a little bit of free play as it comes out, but this one here's got the return spring on it, so that pulls it back, and so we've got a little bit of free play there now, so it's not preloading the clutch, which can result in it slipping. So we'll put that back on and go for another drive, see what it's like. Right, so you should hopefully be able to see what I'm talking about here. you let your foot off the floor, and we're starting to move about there. I'm going to let it all the way off. Then we put it back on. We've got a bit of travel before it starts to slip. We've still got a good bit of travel there. We need that for the clutch to work properly. Anyway, we'll go for a bit of a drive. So it's not what you'd call refined by any stretch of the imagination. Heaps of rattles and clangs and bangs and noises at 100k, or not quite 100k, so about 90k's, which is about top speed on the highway. It is horrendously noisy inside, and you've got to kind of yell at each other. But it wasn't really designed for that, so you've got to give it that. Pretty Spartan inside. I'll just stop just in case you can actually hear me. So you got speedo, oil, fuel, temp and amp meter gauges, headlights, and some instructions on how the locking hubs work, and a hand throttle cable there just in case you need to hold the idle up for something. A brake warning light, which doesn't work. A cigarette lighter, which probably doesn't work. A choke cable, which definitely doesn't work. Windscreen wipers, which do work, and a heater fan speed knob, which funnily enough doesn't work. And you've got your heater here, which is real technical. It's got a tap under the dash on the engine to stop the flow of hot water through it. You turn that off in the summer and you turn it back on in the winter, and that's how it works. Unfortunately the tap's broken, so it kind of goes a little bit all of the time, more than you want in the summer and not really enough in the winter, but we'll get that sorted eventually. And then down here you've got your four-wheel drive lever, which is all pretty simple. Just high 2, high 4 and low 4, nothing exciting there. And that's pretty much all of the Toyota. It's all very, very simple. No door cards, no nothing like that, so you could go swimming and not have any issues. The whole top of these does come off, and the back doors come off, and then you've got an open top vehicle. But yeah, she's a cool little vehicle, and I'm looking forward to doing a whole lot of stuff on it, and when I do I'll put up some videos. Cheers.